Martha, these numbers are simply staggering for the sitting president. 44% of people in this poll say they are not as well off as they were at the start of the Biden administration 2.5 years ago. Those are the worst numbers that we've seen in our ABC News Washington Post polling. It's a question we've been asking going back to the Reagan administration. And when you dive into the big questions around the economy, we know President Biden has been out there trying to make the case. Unemployment is low. He's been talking about how inflation has been easing, but people aren't buying it. You covered some of the reasons why. Gas prices, food prices, grocery prices, and the like. Right now, on the big picture on the economy, 74% of the country, that's about 3/4 of Americans, who say the economy is either not so good or downright poor.
And it's not just the state of the nation or the policies that are giving people pause on President Biden. It seems to be the man himself.
Yeah, Martha, let's talk about age, because we know for sure that the country certainly is. President Biden would be 82 years old on Inauguration Day 2025. That's how old he is. He's not getting any younger. And of course, perceptions around his ability to perform in the job are not getting any better. Right now, 3/4 of Americans, 74%, say that he is too old to effectively serve in a second term. That compares to about 50% who say the same around Donald Trump. And it's not just Republicans or independents who are skeptical over Joe Biden. This is a question we asked: should Biden be at the top of the ticket? 62% of Democrats and Democrat-leaning independents said they think that someone else should be the presidential nominee, although the party is deeply split on who that someone else should be. And Martha, maybe the most startling number in our poll is this: the hypothetical matchup, a rematch of Donald Trump versus Joe Biden. Our poll with the Washington Post pegging this at 51% for Donald Trump over Joe Biden. That is a 9-point edge. Now, that's only a couple of points difference from our last poll in May, but it is significantly different than most recent polls. It is an outlier compared to other polls we've seen recently. Our partners at 538 put together an analysis for us. They find an average of recent polls having this more in the 1 or 2 point range, with Joe Biden typically having the edge. But whether you believe that or not, look, there's a good chance that there's people just trying to send a message in the polling right now, given the other frustration we've seen. We know in this poll there's some quirks, some oddities around the number of black voters and Hispanic voters, the younger voters who seem to be supporting Donald Trump. And get this, because it's pretty hard to believe, but we asked people whether Donald Trump should be constitutionally disqualified from running for office. And among people who said yes, 1 in 5, about 18%, say they'd vote for Trump anyway. So that might just be sending a message that's more anti-Biden than it is pro-Trump. But regardless, the weaknesses that we are seeing for Joe Biden and his approval rating across the board are very real. They are alarming to Democrats, even if no one thinks this is ultimately going to be a 9-point race.
I appreciate MRC Newsbusters putting that together. They definitely caught the whole thing today, and wow, those are some staggering numbers that we're seeing there. Definitely something to keep your eye on, as I think the American people have, as a whole, just kind of had enough. Realistically, I do believe that those numbers are probably going to be a little bit farther apart, but, you know, hey, that's me. I'm Drew Smith, and this is We Talk Freely. This is a show where I go through my feeds and go through the information that I'm finding on a day-by-day basis, and I kind of bring it to you guys for an open discussion. A lot of it is opinionated, but the information that I bring to you guys oftentimes is fact, unless otherwise stated. Just take the information as pretty good information. I try to bring you the best that I can find. I try to find sources that verify it, and then we go from there. Had a nice discussion with somebody the other day in our chat, and was very, very forceful about their opinions. But I'll tell you, I'm not here to attack you, and I hope you're not here to attack me either. Like, I genuinely am looking for a good, open conversation between all of us, because, you know, as Americans, one thing that I fear is that we've lost that ability to communicate with each other. We've lost the ability to work things out and come to a general consensus of what direction we need to go. People have gotten into politics to the point where it's almost like fans of football teams or something like that. Like, I'm a Georgia boy, and I swear it seems like we got like a bunch of Georgia and Florida fans, whichever party you want to put on, whichever works for you. But that's not how our politics should be. We should be looking for compromise, and we should be looking for ways to make this world better for our children and for the future generations. Whether you choose to have children or not, we should still be looking out for the future. Especially the people that will sit there and say that if we don't change our pollution habits or how we treat the planet, you know, if you're looking out for the future that way, then you should definitely be coming across the aisle a little bit in other ways too. Uh, but enough of my rant on that. I want to go back here. MRC had a lot to say on this, and I thought this was really good information that they put out. According to the MRC article that I pulled that video from, it says, on Sunday, ABC News released a poll in conjunction with the Washington Post, and the results were apocalyptically bad for Joe Biden's re-election chances against former President Donald Trump. I wouldn't say they're apocalyptically bad. We're seeing a 10-point swing in all of this, but we saw these kind of swings before in the previous election. Maybe not exactly like this, but we saw in many polls that were out there that Trump was taking the lead, and then we saw up until midnight on election night, we saw a really hefty lead for Donald Trump as well, and then there was a water main break and the entire election was changed. Whether you think there was any kind of hanky-panky or whatever you want to call it in that election, we saw things change, and we don't have Donald Trump as president today. We have Joe Biden. So, that's where we are, and I'm going to get into that a little bit more as I got an article towards the end of this whole part about Biden, but we'll get into that at that point. Going forward on this article, aside from Jimmy Carter-like disapproval ratings on the economy and inflation, Biden is now losing to Trump by 9 points in a head-to-head matchup. Of course, ABC's This Week had a near panic attack when reporting the numbers. It was fun to watch. Yeah, and that's why I opened up with that video. It definitely seemed like Buddy in that video was trying to do some cover-up, on some of those numbers, trying to smooth them out for his listeners. And, in reality, the news doesn't need to do that. What they need to do is just report what they're finding and leave the partisan politics alone. Hold on one second. I'm noticing that I'm a little out of center here. There we go. A little bit better. I should probably sit up. But no, we need to be more honest and straightforward about what's going on in this country. We've got a lot of news agencies that are sitting here trying to cover up for the mistakes that Biden has made, for the policies that just plain out aren't working. After your second year in office and you're seeing abysmal numbers across everything that you promised to fix, it's time to make some adjustments and go back to the things that were working. And I think the American people feel the same way, honestly. I will have this article, if you guys want to read further into what MRC says. There's a lot of opinion and stuff like that in this article. I definitely suggest going on reading onto it. It will be down in the description below. Going further, ABC also did a little bit more digging, and I found this a little clip here from Charlie Kirk, and I thought this was really good. It says, among 18 to 35-year-olds, Trump has a slight 53 to 38% advantage, marginally significant at this sample size. Still, that essentially matches what it was in May And Trump also was numerically ahead in this group, albeit not significantly, by 50 to 43 in February. So what we're starting to see is in almost all age groups, Donald Trump is starting to pull ahead further and further and further the closer we get to the election. I thought this was very interesting, though, because normally it's younger demographics that tend to go towards Democrat policies that tend to lean towards the left. And so I thought this was actually pretty good bit of information here. It's definitely something to pay attention to. But, you know, even younger folks, like this is a prime age group for college people and people that are just kind of getting out and starting up their lives, you know, buying their first houses and stuff like that. You know, if anyone's feeling the squeeze, it's definitely this age group here, the 18 to 35-year-olds. You know, most people, you know, above 40, they already have some established wealth and they have kind of a buffer zone to deal with a lot of this. But at the same time, they're still raising kids. They're getting ready to put their kids in college. And that age group is definitely feeling the squeeze as well. So that's probably why we're starting to see these numbers in all demographics or all age demographics starting to shift. And if you've seen in like my previous episodes or, you know, pretty much every news organization out there has also been reporting, you know, in racial demographics as well, that there's also starting to be some unique shifts too. You know, like was it about a week or 2 weeks ago, we saw black Democrats going from about 8% polled that would vote for Trump to almost 20% that would vote for Trump after his mugshot was taken and all of that stuff. So that's very interesting to me to see, you know, what kind of shifts are we going to see in totality, and will we see another water main break on election day? That's to be seen, I guess. Moving forward from the GOP here on X, says Bidenomics is not working. Americans hold negative views of several aspects of the U.S. economy, like I was saying. The question was, would you describe blank these days as excellent, good, not so good, or poor? So blank is the category here on our left. The state's nation economy. Only 25% say the economy is good or excellent. And I think this bar is, this top bar specifically is very interesting because, you know, for years and years and years, I've been hearing people talk about the 1% or the top group of really wealthy people. And it seems like this bar is getting closer and closer and closer to what America is and that 1%, that select small group of people. You know, people that have a huge buffer account, people that have millions of dollars in their bank accounts, they're not feeling the squeeze like we are. You know, that they'll see a higher inflation on their grocery bill. They'll see their gas prices going up, but at the end of the day, it doesn't bother them because they have a lot more money to play with than the average working class person, or even people that aren't working. They are definitely affected by all these different factors. You know, like I was talking to my daughter earlier today, I said, you know, when I started driving, gas was between 70 and 80 cents a gallon. And here we are in my state, you know, thankfully our governor has declared that state of emergency and removed the gas tax. So I think it was like around $3.20 today at the pump. But that's almost 5 times the amount that it was just 20 years ago. Now, that's not all Biden's fault, but overall, you know, you look at our national debt, you look at inflation and everything like that, and it's gotten out of control. And that's mainly devaluing our dollar. So as people are getting paid more and more, they're not feeling like they're getting paid more. They're actually, it seems like they're getting paid less. You know, if a school teacher is getting paid twice as much as they were back in the late 90s, early 2000s, but things are 4 to 5 times more expensive, that teacher didn't get a pay raise. They got a pay cut. Next thing in this study here was the unemployment rate. Would you describe this excellent, good, not so good, or poor? And only 35% of people in this poll said that it was excellent or good. Everyone else said it was, 57% of it said not so good or poor. Uh, the incomes of average Americans, this one falls again. 21% say that the income of average Americans is excellent or good. 75% say not so good or poor. And again, like I said, like in this top bar I was describing here, it's starting to reflect that 1% to 99%. I mean, obviously it's 74 and 75%, but it's getting closer and closer to matching that. You have, and this is my opinion, it just looks like people who have that buffer zone versus people who don't have that buffer zone. Gas or energy prices, only 12% say that it's excellent or good. Food prices, only 8% say it's excellent or good. And like it says here at the bottom, note opinion not or no opinion is not shown. The source says that it's a poll of 1,006 U.S. adults, and and these numbers are within 3.5 percentage points according to the Washington Post. That's who I guess did this survey. I thought it was very interesting, and these kind of numbers are what have impacts on presidential elections. These have huge impacts. I keep hearing this term Bidenomics, Bidenomics, Bidenomics. This is your report card for Bidenomics right here. Plain and simple. If people thought that our economy was doing good and things were doing better, this bar graph here would be flipped the other way. Could it be a little biased? It is coming from the GOP, but or reposted by the GOP, but this comes from the Washington Post. It could be. 1,000 people, 1,006 people being surveyed is not a huge number of people, but in my honest opinion, if I feel like if we get 10,000 or 100,000 or even 1,000,000 people, I don't think these bars would swing dynamically one way or another. Honestly, I just don't. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Do these bars not reflect what you think? Let me know. I said I was going to talk about what can affect some of these polls earlier in the episode, and this is the article that I wanted to bring to you about that. This comes from the Gateway Pundit, and do remember all these articles. I'm going to kind of just summarize a lot of what they're saying in these articles, but they will be linked down below. So if you want to read deeper into them, or if you want to challenge them, please take advantage of it. I put in a little bit of extra effort for you guys, so go down there, check these links out, read them, get some knowledge. So pollster Rasmussen says election fraud renders scientific election forecasting worthless. Now that's very interesting to me. As we started off, we were talking about the numbers that ABC was putting out. And this is something that I do worry about. I kind of made the little snide comment about, if the water main breaks and, everything could change in the middle of the night again. And I think that's kind of what Rasmussen here is talking about. If we have solid, clean, and clear elections, then a lot of this polling evidence will come out to be a lot closer to accurate. But we have a lot of situations out there right now where there's verifiable evidence that people that shouldn't have been voting did vote. In fact, here in the state of Georgia, in one of my previous episodes, I showed you the lawyers. I forget for who. But there was a lawyer that was describing the votes that were verified ineligible that did get counted. Votes that came from like dead people, votes that came from people that were too young to vote, votes that came from people that had moved out of state and making their votes ineligible. There were so many votes that shouldn't have been counted. In a state, I think I think the state of Georgia, correct me if I'm wrong, I think it was like 12,700 votes that Biden won the state of Georgia in, but there was over 150,000 votes that shouldn't have been counted in the first place. So stuff like that definitely has huge impacts on all of these polls. If everything is honest, if everything is done well, if everything is verified, then these polls will check out better. But let's go on to see what they say here. Apparently, this article originally appeared in johoff.com and was republished with permission of the Gateway Pundit. Hopefully, they don't get mad at me for republishing again. It says prominent pollster Rasmussen announced recently that it cannot produce accurate polls on elections because of the massive amounts of voter fraud occurring in this country. Rasmussen will now provide evidence for why they cannot produce their results. And I got to say something about Rasmussen. This is a name that I've been hearing for a long time growing up. Maybe not growing up. I forget how long they've been around, but they've been around for a good while. And their accuracy has been pretty good. I think, I heard years ago that they're normally within 5%. So anytime where you have like a 10-point or 20-point, 30-point lead or change or something like that, you can almost guarantee that the results that they're giving out are going to be pretty spot on. So it's interesting to see Rasmussen coming out and talking about this, in my book. Election fraud renders scientific election forecasting worthless, so we will continue to cover all official investigations into it. The question is, why don't others? And yes, Arizona and Georgia are mostly Republican-controlled, Rasmussen reported. Let's see here. Election fraud renders scientific election forecasting worthless, so we continue to cover all investigations into it. This part just recaps it. Rasmussen then shared an example of election fraud from the 2020 election. 830,000 impressions at Governor Kemp and at Georgia Secretary of State so far, and you've got up to 150,000 still hidden 2020 ballots. And then they put it on a link here, which I highly suggest you guys go check that out. Rasmussen reported in September 23rd, 2023, that was just yesterday. Over 830,000 ballot impressions were illegally destroyed after the 2020 election. No one has been held accountable for this crime. Another 150,000 ballots were identified during the recounts in Fulton County, Georgia, that were supposedly mail-in ballots, but they had never been reviewed. These ballots were identical and were not folded, and yet we were told they were mail-in ballots. Voter GA sued the county to be able to review these ballots. The lower court said they didn't have standing after leading them on a 9-month trial. The Georgia Appellate Court agreed some months later, and then finally last Christmas, the Georgia Supreme Court said that voter GA had standing and could therefore review the ballots. This ruling was passed down to the Appellate Court, which has sat on it, still not allowing voter GA to review these ballots. God only knows if these ballots have not been tampered with during this time. How could any pollster produce polling out of this corrupt mess? Which is good questions. And so, here in this article, Rasmussen says that they are going to continue to investigate everything that's going on. They're going to dig deeper into it. And I would like to see these results. If you want to say it's clean and clear and everything's done fair, then what we should be seeing is these judges allowing these court cases to go forward, making clean judgments upon them. There needs to be legal organizations pushing harder to get this information out. And honestly, if you have nothing to hide, then just show the evidence. If everything is legitimate, just show it. People who don't have anything to hide don't hide things. That's the problem I have with all of this in the 2020 elections. You know, I can give a million examples and hypotheticals and all of that, but it just doesn't add up. If you're a parent, you know exactly what I'm saying in all of this. You know exactly what I mean when I say if you have nothing to hide, then present your evidence. If you've ever disciplined your child for anything, you know this. You know, you know that your kid will always try to beat around the bush and try to drag out showing whatever evidence they have when they know they're in trouble. And here we are. And it seems like Democrats and a lot of people in legal and high up positions are doing exactly that. They are hiding the evidence they have. They are dragging their feet. They are trying to prevent the truth from coming out. Just show what you got. It's we're at the poker table. All the bets have been made. The flop is done. Show your cards. Let's go. Moving on from our election stuff, and I appreciate you guys hanging out with me. Don't forget to like and subscribe on the video if you like the information I'm giving, and leave me comments down below if there's anything else that you want me to go over on this stuff. But this is what I've got this weekend. I'll definitely bring more information as more information comes out in the future. But, you know, jump down in the comments. Let me know what you think about all this election stuff, and let's move forward here. So here with the Washington Examiner, I thought this was a pretty interesting thing because I keep hearing politicians saying that there's no crisis at the border, that immigration is not a problem, illegal immigration, whatever you want to call it. You know, not trying to be offensive or anything here, but there seems to be a lot of people coming across that border without going through the normal legal process. But here at the Washington Examiner, they said that Biden makes border history with the most immigrant encounters in August ever recorded. I don't know if you guys are seeing the same videos that I'm seeing, but yeah, it's getting wild down there. And I think it was Governor Greg Abbott there in Texas, you know, putting barbed wire and stuff out in the river, and then federal agents coming out there and cutting open sections, and then Abbott having more military personnel go out there to replace the broken sections. I mean, it's a battle between the states and the federal government at this point. You know, Biden wants to pretend that there's nothing bad going on, but then you got, Mayor Eric Adams, was it, up in New York? And he's sitting there screaming for help because even his state, all the way across the nation, is being overrun. Like, which way is it, guys? I mean, we do have an immigrant problem or we don't have an immigrant problem. But again, just like I said about the election stuff, you know, it's time to put up or shut up, man. You know, if there's no problem, then go down to the border and show us that there's no problem. But anyway, the article goes on to say, more than 300,000 immigrants attempted to enter the United States unlawfully or were paroled during August, surpassing all national records and spelling catastrophe for the Biden administration that claimed its sweeping policy reforms were working. In August, 304,162 people were apprehended. Golly. Were apprehended by Border Patrol while crossing the border illegally, were deemed inadmissible by customs officers at port of entry, or used new Biden initiatives to bypass the border and fly under the umbrella of temporary parole, according to data published by U.S. Customs and Border Protection on Friday. Now, I heard a report yesterday, and I meant to have it for you guys today, but I heard a report that the Biden administration has created an app to fast track people into this country so they can jump on airplanes and just fly in instead of having to make the long trek across the border. I'm wondering if this number also accounts for those people as well. And then another disturbing thing is, even the article says these are the people that were apprehended. How many people are there that they missed? I think this number is even higher. Even higher than this article that is condemning Biden for what he's doing. And 304,000 is a lot of people. Holy crap, that's a lot of people. In 1 month, 304,000 apprehended. How many people didn't get counted? How many people snuck across that border without being apprehended? These numbers are staggering. I didn't want to use the I word, but yeah, this really does seem like an invasion more than immigration. It's an invasion. The August number surpassed the record of 302,000 from December 2022. Again, another Biden administration month. The 304,000 is between 5 and 10 times higher than the average monthly total seen during the Obama and Trump administrations. At the southern border, 181,059 immigrants were arrested after walking around the ports of entry and crossing into the U.S. Approximately 74,000 of that number were single adults, 19,000 arrived with a family member, and 13,500 were unaccompanied children. 13,500 unaccompanied children. Where do those kids go? Let me know in the comments below. I want to know, where do those kids go? Like, I remember during the Trump administration, everyone was mad about the kids in cages and stuff like that. And we've seen reports, and I've even mentioned in previous episodes, there's way more kids in cages now. Where do these kids go? If they're unaccompanied and they don't already have family in the States, where do these kids go? The numbers match up with the initial numbers that CBP sources shared with the Washington Examiner 3 weeks ago. Customs officers at southern border ports encountered 51,913 people who did not have documents to enter but may have claimed asylum. Another approximately 20,000 immigrants were arrested on the northern border or deemed inadmissible at air, land, and sea ports up north. The remaining 50,000 person difference is not specifically broken on CBP's website, but accounts for immigration or immigrants outside the U.S. who were granted humanitarian parole and allowed to fly into the country. These numbers are staggering, folks. Like, this is insane. I'm seeing reports that the Biden administration and others are working to build entire communities for all these people that are coming across. We've got all kinds of blue cities that call themselves sanctuary cities, either declaring or are next to declaring states of emergency. Like, this is chaos. This is a blatant invasion. I'm going to keep reporting these numbers the more and more that they come out. But I need people to start waking up about all of this. Whether you're a Democrat, whether you're a Republican, whether you're nonpartisan, whatever it is, none of this is good. I mean, these people, a lot of them are going to have a hard time finding jobs regardless. No matter how nice our country is to them. Like, say everything was just hunky-dory and we said, sure, everyone can have a work visa, everyone can have IDs, everyone can have tax IDs, all that good stuff. All these people, it's going to take a long time for them to adapt. Learning language, learning, our policies, learning our laws. That's going to be difficult in its own. And then all these children, they got to go to school. They got to get educations. They need medicine. They need care. Like, if we're stuck taking them all in, who's paying for all this? I complain about all the money that's going over to Ukraine, and that's just billions of dollars. I'm curious, how many trillions of dollars is all this immigration going to cost? Yeah, trillions, I'm sure. Because we're definitely having to put out more resources for these people than we're putting bombs in the Ukraine. It's definitely something to think about. Again, this article, it goes on a bit further. Check it out. Check out the links and stuff down below in this video. Let me know what you think. It's kind of crazy. Next on, we're going to retouch on the mayor that switched from the Democrat Party over to the Republican Party. This is actually a follow-up article with the DNC there in Texas and how they're reacting to the decision to switch parties. Here from the Conservative Brief, it says Texas Democrats excoriate Dallas mayor after he joins Republican Party. I thought this was actually kind of brutal, not specifically from, not saying the Conservative Brief is being brutal, but when I read this article earlier today, I thought what they said was kind of brutal, and it's really unfounded. Democrats are furious and feel betrayed after a young party star decided to switch to the Republican Party, and they are coming out at him hard. It came after Dallas Mayor Eric Johnson announced in an opinion piece for the Wall Street Journal that he was leaving the Democrats to join the Republicans, Fox News reported. I think today's announcement is nothing short of an insult to the electorate. Specifically here in Dallas County and the city of Dallas, Cardell Coleman, chair of the Dallas County Democratic Party, said to Fox News, "Voters elected Mayor Johnson and were told that they were going to get a certain set of values, which he failed to deliver on. So now he's switching up his political party. This is not just strictly about partisanship. I think this is a self-centered agenda on his behalf, and he's choosing politics over people," he said. And see, this is where Democrats are completely mental, in my opinion. Most of these candidates, like this gentleman here, when they were campaigning, they were saying stuff like, we're going to bring down crime. We're going to make a better life for our people. That they were making plenty of promises to improve things in their area. And from everything that I'm reading about this guy, it seems, Mayor Johnson here, it seems like he's trying to keep up with his promises. It's not specifically about party alignment for him. He's looking for an avenue which best suits his people. Like I said in an episode before, I'm still looking out to see if he's just doing this because he sees the strength in the GOP. But in reality, many of the things that Democrats want, a lot of the Democrat politicians want, not all obviously, but many of the things that they want at the end of the day are going to be much easier achieved through Republicans. Republicans are not for defunding the police. Republicans are for helping the police, increasing training, increasing population of police, and increasing their effectiveness in their communities. Republicans are for increasing education, not social educations and things like that, but they're for making more well-rounded students who will then become more productive people in the future. These communities that a lot of these Democrats were campaigning on need the Republican values, not Democrat values. Look at the past 50 years. Like, honestly, again, I'm reaching across the aisle on this one to my Democrat and left-leaning friends. Look at what Democrats have done for the past 50 years. Election after election, they've made promise after promise, saying that they were going to help lift people out of these hoods, they were going to help lift people out of poverty, they were going to help people in general. But all I see is, and I'm looking at my own state here. Tell me if it's different in yours. But I see in my state, from Atlanta to Savannah, I see more projects popping up. I see more poor people in the streets. You know, in fact, I didn't even think about this. My daughter, just today when we were in the truck, she said, I'm seeing more and more and more homeless people on the side of the streets. And she's not kidding. Like almost every street corner that we drove through here in Savannah, in the main parts of town, we saw somebody holding up a cardboard sign. You know, these are things that I didn't see expanding when I was younger. Maybe I was blind, but I did see more people being successful in the past 20 years before Obama than I did after Obama. You know, it seems like when there was more conservative control, and that's in my areas, we had a lot more conservative control during those times. I saw a lot more success stories, you know. My black friends, my Hispanic friends, you know, they were opening up businesses, either restaurants or even a couple of them, you know, like studios and stuff like that. Small businesses, you know, were everywhere. And that's one of the things I love about Savannah, Georgia. We've got small businesses like crazy. From feeding your stomach to getting your hair done to buying your favorite golf gear, you name it, man. For the longest time, there was a store for that. Like we had more small businesses than Apple's got apps. You know, like it was a great place around here. But now, you know, when I drive around, I see all those shopping centers that I used to go to. They're pretty much dried up. And sure, there's a little bit that you can blame on, you know, online ordering and all of that, but I don't care. When I want to go buy a new shirt, new pants, or something like that, I want to go try them on. I don't know about y'all. And after I try them on and they fit, I'm buying them right there. I'd much rather invest locally. And that's something else that Republicans do, by the way. Conservatives do. Independent libertarians do. We like to invest local. We'd rather see our neighbor who owns a small business get that money and be able to send their kids to a ball game or something of that nature, or pay for their daughter's prom dress, or buy their kid their first car. We'd much rather see that local than to send our money over to some manufacturer overseas. You know, Democrats, you know, going back to my point here, I think, you know, from everything that I've read, and I'm going to have some more follow-up stories on this guy, but I think everything that I've read, it really shows that he's looking out for the people, not for the partisan politics. You know, this article from the Conservative Brief, just like every other article that I have listed up here at the top, is going to be down there in the description below. Go check it out. Go read everything they got to say. Democrats turning on their own people, it's not a good look, y'all. For real. You need to quit with the games, stop with the partisan politic bull, and start looking out for the people that you've been promising for 50 years, if not 60 years. You need to start looking out for those people. I'm tired of seeing my friends, my family, everybody around me suffer. And that's on y'all. Next, there's another Texas governor here. And, you know, I'm focusing a little bit on Texas, even though I'm a Georgia boy. You know, I'm looking at Texas because they're the ones that are getting racked with this immigration stuff. And maybe I should have put this in a different order. I should have put this one up first and then gone over there to Johnson. But, you know, Resist the Mainstream's got a nice little article here on what's going on with this Texas mayor. And I'll just read into it for you. Texas Democrat mayor doesn't hold back against Biden over border crisis. We're here, abandon, he says. The Democrat mayor of Eagle Pass, Texas, Rolando Salinas, again, I'm horrible with names. Don't laugh at me. Has publicly criticized President Biden and his administration for their handling of the border crisis. Salinas contends that Eagle Pass has been left to fend for itself amid an unprecedented influx of swarthy hordes, flooding the picturesque town as they come forth in multitudes from Mexican-American border. I'll be honest with you. I believe 100% He does bear some responsibility for this crisis, Salinas remarked on CNN on Saturday. Quote, I haven't heard from anybody in the administration. The president hasn't put out a statement. The vice president haven't heard from anybody. Nobody has bothered to call me or anyone in the city staff saying, hey, this is the federal government. We're worried about you. This is our plan of action. Quote, nothing, Salinas continued. We're here abandoned. We're on the border. We're asking for help. This is unacceptable. Salinas also urged the Biden administration to enforce existing immigration laws, arguing that the current situation is unfair to those who seek to enter the country legally. Quote, please just enforce the laws that are on the books. We're a nation of laws. That's all I ask for. I shouldn't be like this, Salinas said. He added that the lack of enforcement undermines the efforts of those who have spent time and money to immigrate legally. You know, and I'll say this right off the top. We're looking at, Mayor Johnson? We're looking at this guy making a switch from the Democrat Party to the Republican Party. This mayor here, he sounds like he's about to do the same. Yeah, that's just my opinion. There's no evidence of that at all. But I think a lot of Democrats are starting to wake up. The ones that honestly want to do something good for their people, they're starting to wake up. They're tired of it. This is, to the Biden administration, to Democrats, you want people to make switches? You want people to jump from your party back over here to the conservative party? This is how you do it. You continue to ignore your people. You continue to ignore the pain and everything else that's going on. And this is what's going to happen. You're going to have more mayors, more senators, more congressmen, more representatives, and more constituents across the board that are going to switch from your party to the conservative parties, to the GOP, or maybe even to the Libertarian, which most Democrats I talk to consider right-wing anyway. Over and over again, we hear promise after promise, and yet nothing gets delivered. And so, I could rant on that for in the next 10, 20, 30 minutes, but it's time for people to wake up. I'm going to kind of leave this here, but I've got one more video that I want to show you guys, and it's some of that wake up that I think everyone is starting to experience. It's an example of how fed up people are. Let's see, let me make sure that this doesn't come blurting through real quick. Yeah, there we go. There's some strong language in here. This video is about a minute long, but if you made it this long into the video, I want you to listen to what this young guy's got to say. He's spitting some truth, and I love the slogan that I'm starting to see more and more pop up: "Awake, not woke." These people are. They're tired of it. They're waking up to seeing it, and they've had enough. I'm gonna play this video for y'all. And after this video, I'm going to have just a couple more things to say, and I think we're going to end up wrapping it up. So hold tight, and here we go.
I'm going to keep saying it loud and proud, bro. Obama has done nothing for black people, and you still got black people are still praising him. Black folks still got his statues and memorabilia like this was God, bro. I'm scared of my people when I see this, bro. Y'all got pictures of Obama everywhere like this man was God. You got the district attorney in Atlanta acting like she's doing a change for Atlanta. But this bitch, I said it, she's trying to be some type of new celebrity doing the most for attention because we know she has political aspiration like the rest of them to be a maybe governor or to take over as president. We know this already. even this case against Trump and all that she's doing, whether some of y'all agree with her or not, is being way too extra, bro. Fannie is a clown like the rest of you political minstrel shows, bro. Barack Obama been the worst thing for black people. Yes, a lot of presidents been bad for them, but there has been no other than a man who looks like y'all.
My dude's speaking exactly what he feels. And I hate how Rumble does that. That just kills me. But I mean, he's speaking the truth, what he feels, and like he's frustrated. And I think many of us are out here, you know, and a lot of it did start under the Obama administration, this massive downhill. You know, President Obama lured a lot of people, and he didn't just lure black people. He snagged a bunch of white people too. You know, he snagged people from all different races. You know, we all kind of rallied behind him. It's like, yo, you know, our country is finally starting to accept what it really is, and we're electing our first black president, and we're starting to make strides, and we're making real moves here. But in reality, it just looks like either Obama was a puppet or an orchestrator of something much more evil and sinister. He ruined a lot of people's lives. You know, his policies have completely stepped on the lower class and have exchanged a crap ton of wealth and power from the people to the select few. You know, when I hear the chant that he made, you know, and is now being echoed in so many Democrats nowadays, is that, you know, they always say, you know, this is harming our democracy, or you're attacking our democracy. But the reality of it is we have a democratic republic, y'all. We have democratic principles in the republic of our nation. Obama tried to push us to something that our country is not. If you remember in the Pledge of Allegiance, it says, "And into the republic for which it stands." It doesn't say, "and to the democracy for which it stands." It's to the republic for which it stands. And that's something that a lot of people need to remember. Obama was supposed to be there as a beacon of hope for many people. He was supposed to break down barriers that our nation has suffered through for eons. But instead, he took advantage of people. He's destroyed people. And here we are with Biden pushing Obama agendas even further to grosser extents. And nobody is seeing their lives getting better unless they are on a specific class. And I'm not talking about race, and I'm not talking about gender. I'm talking about a class of wealth. And that's what from the Obama administration and to the Biden administration, that's the only thing that they've brought us is class warfare, class division. It's the 1% versus the 99%. People like you and me, our voices don't matter to them. They just want anything that they can extract from us. And I'm going to leave it there. Guys, thank you so much. If you made it this far in the video, please throw me a like, follow, subscribe, and comment down in the video, or comment down below, and let me know if you agree with me, or if I'm off base. You know, let me know. This show can only get better with input from people like you. Thank you so much again, and with all that being said, y'all stay safe.